Madam President and managers, just wanted to take a few minutes to give you a brief update on our monitoring program and offer some mid-season results and conclusions. We will begin with the climate context for the monitoring season. I'll be discussing the data that we have available to share with you today, and then we'll go through the lake, CAT, DIY, and O&M programs, the monitoring results that we have to share with you, and then conclude with some adaptive management based on what we are seeing in the data today. Here we have a figure of the 2025 precipitation. You can see that we've got a relatively wet spring and average to above average precipitation throughout the monitoring season here. Although I would consider this year to be average or slightly above average from a precipitation standpoint. The black line there is our current precipitation. The blue is the wettest year on record, and red the driest year on record. So we exceeded the wettest year this spring, so a very wet spring, and then we kind of come back to normal here and are within the average for the year between wet and dry. Again, a little bit in the wetter realm for this year. Another look at current climate conditions. On the bottom there is precipitation, which we said was average to slightly above average. And then at top, temperatures. I would say again average, maybe slightly above average here in mid to late summer. All right, as this is a mid-season update, we've got some limited data to share with you all. We've got our DIY and CAT diagnostic data. We've had 4 to 5 sampling events this spring and then another 5 to 6 events this summer. So it's been a good sampling season from that regard. You can see in the middle there our camp or lake monitoring schedule. We are currently around week 11. So we've got 10 weeks of data that we've submitted, or 9 weeks that we've submitted. We've only got data back on the first 4 weeks though, because it takes a while for the lab to process. We also have bottom water results that we can share with you and our lake profile data into June and actually into July. We also have chlorides on a select few lakes that we can share that information with you. And this gives us an early glimpse into our lake water quality for the year. Can't draw a whole lot of conclusions from this limited data set. It's better to view it as a whole at the end of the season to see how the lakes are actually trending. There is usually some fluctuation within the season, so it's better to view it as a whole afterwards. But we have this update for you, and we can kind of see early trends. The lake monitoring data that we'll be able to share today is our Secchi depths, major lakes. We've got some total phosphorus data into early June, and then we've got bottom water, which is the orthophosphate results, chlorides on Comfort and Little Comfort Lake as well. We do not have any chlorophyll A data yet. That is still in preliminary form at the lab. I'd hoped that by delaying this presentation by a few weeks that we'd get that information, but it still has not come through. That will be included in the end of the year report. Here is our first data slide. What I've done is taken the water quality summaries from the 2024 end of the year report, displayed those so you can see seasonal trends and last year's data, and then superimpose the current data, which is going to be the brighter colors. On the top there for total phosphorus, we've got those blue-green triangles. For bottom orthophosphate, the red smiley faces, and then on the bottom there, Secchi depth in the purple smiley faces. In general, on all our lakes, we're seeing similar water quality to that of 2024, which is average or slightly below average. We're seeing a little bit better water quality this year, but again, right around the average. If we look at the East Basin of Forest Lake, total phosphorus right around our seasonal trend, as also we have for bottom orthophosphate, similar to last year, maybe a little bit better. Secchi depth on East Basin, similar to last year as well. Forest Lake's Middle Basin, very similar data. to last year again, following that seasonal trend for total phosphorus, and bottom orthophosphate again relatively low. Secchi depth a little bit higher or less depth than last year, but we'll see how that trends moving forward. For Forest Lake West Basin, we've got total phosphorus similar to what we saw last year, actually a little bit lower at times, still following that seasonal trend. Secchi depth, following that seasonal trend as well. We had a couple of really nice deep measurements as well this year, so a little bit, I'd say a little bit better than last year to date, or to the extent of the data that we have currently. On Moody Lake, we're also seeing some good water quality there. Total phosphorus below the seasonal trend, which is great. And then our bottom water is similar to what we saw last year, maybe actually a little less orthophosphate than we saw last year to date. And then Secchi depths, pretty similar to what we saw last year, and again below the seasonal trend. And I believe that's a 10-year seasonal trend. So we're doing better with water clarity on Moody Lake than we have over the last 10 years. So that's great news. On to Comfort Lake, total phosphorus right around that seasonal trend, and bottom orthophosphate similar to what we saw last year, actually a little bit less here into July and August. And Secchi depth, similar to the seasonal trend, although we've had a little bit poor water quality or clarity as of late. So it's something to keep looking at here moving forward. Over to Bone Lake, total phosphorus, similar to what we saw last year, below the seasonal trend, actually a little bit better than we saw last year. So that is a good sign. And Secchi depth, again, very low this year, below the seasonal trend, below the state standard. So really good water clarity in Bone Lake again this year. We'll see how that trends moving forward. Lastly, we have Shields Lake. There was some concern about water quality in Shields Lake. We had some comments about stained water being noted and leaving this subwatershed and entering Forest Lake, so I included this slide as well. See, we've got similar data to what we had in 2024. Bottom orthophosphate is creeping up a little bit despite the alum treatment that we had a few years back. And total phosphorus is still following that seasonal trend. We'll monitor that moving forward to see if it spikes again like we saw last year. Secchi depths had some good ones this spring, but they're trending up again, and water clarity has been a little below average, I'd say, on Shields Lake. We will continue to monitor this lake a little bit closer moving forward. We've got some proposed additional monitoring that we would like to implement on this lake as well to further investigate these trends. As I mentioned earlier, we did some additional chloride monitoring on a few of our lakes, primarily Comfort and Little Comfort Lake. There was some concern about chloride loading in those two water bodies. We did grab samples that we took to instrumental labs, and then we also did monitoring with our Sonde Pro DSS. The highest readings through July 2025 were 46 milligrams per liter for Comfort and 42 milligrams per liter for Little Comfort Lake. So good readings here, relatively low, no exceedance of the Minnesota chronic standard, which is 230 milligrams per liter for a 4-day period. So no real concern about chloride contamination of these waters. Relatively low values here for both of those lakes. So good news.
The Citizen Assisted Tributary Monitoring Program, or CAT, monitored 24 sites across all 3 basins of Forest Lake, including 3 new sites along Lakeside Park, mostly capturing urban runoff from roads, grass spaces, and impervious surfaces. We are on track to collect a similar amount of samples compared to the 2024 monitoring season, with 164 samples collected to date across 10 sampling events. The main trend we have noticed in 2025 is that phosphorus levels are overall much lower than 2024, with only 1 site increasing in average phosphorus and by only 6%. We could speculate that this is because 2024 was a very wet year that flushed out wetlands, so there may be less accumulated nutrient-laden material to be flushed out in 2025. This year we have piloted chloride monitoring on 7 sites using our sonde, 4 of which primarily receive runoff from roads and residential areas, whereas the remaining 3 receive runoff from wetland-heavy areas. We're still refining our protocol and monitoring methods, and we hope to have data to share at the end of the year.
For our 2025 do-it-yourself or DIY diagnostic monitoring, we looked at 2 of the locations we did in previous years, which was the Comfort Lake and Little Comfort Lake direct drainages. New for 2025, we also looked at direct drainages to Shields Lake and Moody Lake, 2 areas identified as having some potential loading issues. We have a total of 33 total sites this year, 15 in the Comfort and Little Comfort Lake area, 10 in Shields, and 8 on Moody. And we collected a total of 249 samples to date over 6 to 8 monitoring events based on the sub-watershed that we looked at. For our results, we're looking primarily at the Moody and Shields Lake sub-watersheds. This is a picture of Shields Lake. Early trends are that we may have some loading from an agricultural area to the southwest. We again monitor only orthophosphate for the DIY, and we're seeing that we've got some elevated levels coming from that southern agricultural area. There's also a stormwater pond there, highlighted in blue. We have some data that indicates higher nutrient levels exported from that pond as compared to the inlet, which could indicate that we have a need for a clean out of that stormwater pond. Again, we need more investigation into this area, specifically the stormwater pond. Some of the data is indicating that we've got an increase as we flow through the pond. Others are indicating that's approximately the same. So need to follow up on that and get some more data. And we have been taking a few of these samples, subsample of the subwatershed to instrumental labs to verify the results that we are seeing here. So we'll continue to monitor that and see if we have any better trends or any better results at the end of the season. For the Moody Lake subwatershed, again, you can see all of our sites indicated on the map. We're finding that the wetland areas in between several of the sites, several of the project areas, may be exporting orthophosphate. Again, additional investigation is needed to verify these results. And we did take a subsample of the water samples from this subwatershed to instrumental labs to verify some of that information. I will say that we do need to collect more data and get it over a wider range of precipitation events as well to further investigate this, and we'll keep monitoring out throughout the rest of the season. We've also been using our DIY technology to look at some of our older projects through our operations and maintenance monitoring. This data is used to see if the projects are functioning as designed and also to determine if any maintenance is needed. To date, we've looked at a number of projects. Just go through a few of them here. The WJ86 wetland that we implemented a few years ago. We're seeing that we've got about 75% of the orthophosphorus removal from that project, so that is great news. Similarly, Northeast Bone Lake Legacy Lode, orthophosphate levels are at or below normal wetland background levels, so that project seems to be effective as well. The North Shore Trail or Hayward Avenue Iron Enhanced Sand 50 got approximately 70% removal of orthophosphate based on just a few samples. The CR50 Iron Enhanced Sand Filter, around 80% orthophosphate removal. And we also looked at Third Lake Pond this summer, and we've got orthophosphate levels coming out of that project at or below normal wetland levels. So good news here on all these projects that we monitored this year. We'll continue to collect more data throughout the year to verify some of these results and to continue to monitor many of our past projects. One of the benefits of these mid-season check-ins and also the use of our DIY technology is that it allows us to adaptively manage our resources. We can take a look at the current trends and identify areas where we need more monitoring or we need to invest more time and resources into figuring out what's going on here. So as I mentioned earlier, this year we are looking at Moody Lake and Shields Lake direct drainages. This is based off of the 2024 data that we found. That data indicated that there might be some loading issues in these sub-watersheds. So we've been monitoring those with our DIY technology, and then subsequently we've been taking a subset of those water samples to instrumental labs to verify our DIY results. We've identified several areas that we have some higher nutrient loading, but we need to, again, to take more samples to verify that information over a variety of different precipitation events. For the CAT and DIY, we've been prioritizing sites throughout the year, reducing monitoring at sites that we've got data indicating relatively low loading from those areas and focusing staff efforts on the high loading areas. And then also we can investigate some wetlands of interest through these monitoring techniques. And then for the O&M, we need some additional monitoring events on several of our select projects to verify the results that we're seeing right now, just to verify the current data and just to keep track of those projects and see how they're continuing to trend and if any additional maintenance is needed. With that, I'd just like to thank you all for listening to this presentation. I will be in attendance at the board meeting to answer any questions that you all might have. I'd also like to thank all the volunteers that we have for the CAT program. Without their assistance, we would not be able to implement that program. So again, thank you, and I look forward to any comments that or questions that you might have.